World where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show, it's being brought to you in part by, you guessed it, my book, Don Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon and check it out. Or you can go to BillyCBoxing.com. I believe the publisher still has a big sale going on. I think it's like $12, so check it out. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame and their 2026 induction ceremony. It's taking place June 5th, 6th, and 7th. I'm going to be there, and I want you to come on down and join us. It's a great weekend. It's taking place in St. Petersburg. Just go to the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame.com website or check them out on Facebook to get all the information. We got a busy show scheduled for you today. First and foremost, I'm going to be talking about the latest boxing news, including the news that came out today about Floyd Mayweather's $300 million lawsuit against Showtime. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I got breakdowns and predictions of the world title fight between Nick Ball and Brandon Figueroa. It's for the world featherweight title. We have a pretty cool guest scheduled for today, undefeated welterweight prospect Victor Reynoso. He's going to be joining us a little bit later. He's headlining a card this weekend. So usually we get guests on at least a week before their event, but we wanted to get Victor on as close to his fight as possible, and it's pretty close. It's happening on Saturday night. But first, let's talk about the fights that took place this past weekend. Shakur Stevenson against Teofimo Lopez. Going before, I broke down and gave predictions on this fight, but it was a last-minute change. I changed my mind that morning of the show, Wednesday morning, because up until that point, I just, I was thinking Teofimo might have squeaked it out, and then, when I really dissected the fight, I ended up going with Shakur Stevenson, and what a performance Shakur had. In my opinion, it was a breakout performance. I've admitted many, many times on this show that I wasn't overly impressed with Shakur Stevenson. He was kind of a boring fighter. I never doubted his skill set, specifically his defensive skill set. But on last Saturday night against Teofimo Lopez, he dominated the fight. I always say, we're talking about Floyd Mayweather a little later, and he's got a lot of you youngsters, you young fans, believing that the definition of the sweet science is hit and not get hit. Well, he leaves out the other part of it. It's hit and not get hit, but you still got to be in position to inflict damage on your opponent. And one of the more recent fighters that I think did a great job at that was Vasily Lomachenko. on Saturday night, Shakur Stevenson did the same. He was very hard to hit. Teofimo-Lopez was not connecting very much. And Stevenson was still there. He wasn't running to the other end of the ring. He was there. He was avoiding punches. He was letting his hands go. He looked fantastic. And again, I think that that was his, in my opinion, I'm calling it his breakout fight. I think he really impressed me, and he should have impressed you. The way the judges scored that fight, 119, 109, as all three of them scored it. Stevenson improves to 25-0 with 11 knockouts, and Teofimo-Lopez loses for only the second time in his career. His record now 22 wins, 2 losses, with 13 wins coming by knockout. Here's some thoughts on the card. One thing, I do have a knock on Stevenson, and I have said this in the past. Just give a shout out to everybody that's in the chat room. I just give some quotes here. Daryl says Lopez was nervous. Stevenson was going to be on his ass. He'd like to see Oshaki Foster against Shakur Stevenson. Lovett saying, she's saying he's not flashy, but very solid skills. Here's the thing. There is one thing that he needs to do. Two things. One, he needs his man and my man, Terrence Crawford. He needs to get a little bit of that mean streak that TC is so famous for. And I think this man could be a deadly opponent for anybody. But the one thing I do have a knock on Shakur Stevenson, and I've said it before, and it's a really bad habit of his. And the truth of the matter is as he's fighting opponents that he's just manhandling, it's not going to really affect him. I did personally think that Teofimo-Lopez would have given him a better fight, which he did not. So once again, he was manhandling his opponent. He leaves his mouth open. His mouth is open. He's smiling. He's got his mouth open. That is extremely dangerous. If somebody connects with him at the right time, just connects a punch, he's going to break his jaw. And, it's hard to fight with a broken jaw. I mean, Muhammad Ali did it. Arthur Abraham did it, but not many other fighters can do that. So I think that he needs to – it's a habit, obviously, and all habits, good or bad, are hard to break. It is something that I think that he should try to tighten up. A couple of observations I had about the card. First and foremost, I've never met Turki Al-Rashid, and I think for the most part he's doing well for the sport of boxing. But I don't know about you, but he looked like he's putting on a few pounds. He was ringside for the fight, and it looked like maybe he was enjoying New York City food a little too much. He looked a little chunky. He looked fatter than me. I mean, maybe because he's always wearing robes and stuff, and he didn't have his traditional, robes that he has in when he fights in Saudi Arabia, when they have fights in Saudi Arabia. But he looked a little chunky. He looked a little chunky around the midsection to me. Another observation. Now, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but the guy that's sticking his head in all of the shots, he's holding the belts. He looks like a WWE character. He's holding a belt, sunglasses. He dresses like a total fool. He acts like a total fool, and he is a total fool. His name, Rick Reno. Now, who is Rick Reno? Rick Reno happens to be the editor of Ring Magazine, or at least somebody involved pretty heavily with Ring Magazine, and that's why he's there. Where did he come from? He used to own Boxing Scene, which is a website. But I don't know what he's trying to do. Maybe he's trying to do exactly what I'm doing, noticing him. But quite honestly, he looks foolish to me. Another observation I had was the crowd. I always say how the UK carries boxing on its back. And when you watch a fight that's taking place in the UK, what you usually see is you see a very diversified crowd. I mean, you're seeing obviously men and women and groups of women alone. People having a good time. I mean, let's grant it, they drink gigantor beers, but the truth is they're always smiling, they're always cheering, they're singing. You watch fights, even big fights like this one. Yes, Madison Square Garden was sold out. Yes, it was thunderous, but during the action, all you see when the camera spans the audience, they're all sitting there with pussies on their face. Not much cheering. You see predominantly men there. Yes, they do bring their women for the eye candy occasionally, but I've never seen young people. I mean, in the UK, you see kids, you see old people like me, you see young people, you see, like I said, men, women, couples, everything. You don't see that here. I think that a lot of people go and watch the fights when it's an event like this one was. They go to the Garden. Oh, I'm going to the Garden. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to go to the fight. It's supposed to be a good one. In the UK, they're more. It's pretty obvious they're boxing fans. And it was just something I noticed. I'm not saying that people weren't having a hard time, but they were kind of keeping it. I mean, a good time, but they were kind of keeping it to themselves. The other thing I want to mention, and that's going to be the last thing I talk about, as far as the broadcast goes, very rarely do I pay attention or even listen to the broadcast team. DAZN, the main DAZN broadcast, like we saw on Saturday, is usually pretty good. Todd Grisham does a good job, and the Snake, Sergio, he does the Latin Snake. He does Sergio Mora, in case you don't know who I'm talking about. He's usually point on. Mannix is he doesn't look like he's fun to go out with, but he's pretty accurate with his scoring and stuff like that. And the one thing I want to say, I agree with that staff, that whole group, when they were critical of Teofimo Lopez's corner. I was thinking the same thing when they said it. Okay, they start saying, "Listen, look at Teofimo's." Now, Teofimo Lopez's corner consisted of his father and Stacy, another top trainer. I'm going blank with his last name here, but I was going to say Stacy Keach, but no, it's not Stacy Keach. And when you're in Teofimo, when the camera was in Teofimo Lopez's corner, no instruction was being given to this kid. I mean, how many times did you hear him come back to the corner and his father's going, bro, you got to throw more punches, bro. Come on, bro. He's doing that, and on the other side, you see Shakur Stevenson go to his corner, and his grandfather is his main trainer, and not only is his grandfather and the other trainer in the corner, giving him solid advice, Shakur Stevenson's on the same page. You could see him. He's nodding. He's going, not just nodding like, yeah, I'll do that. No, he's nodding. He's actually communicating with them. They are working on their game plan. It was something that Teofimo Lopez did not do in the corner. And by the way, they never changed their game plan. I mean, look, Stevie Wonder could have seen the fact that, it wasn't working. The plan wasn't working, and they needed to make some adjustments, and they failed to do it. So it was sad. When you're in a big fight like that, you come to your corner. Sometimes even though you're right against your opponent face to face, you might not be seeing something if they're dropping their hand or open for an overhand right or left or whatever that the corner sees. That's the kind of instruction you need, and he didn't. They didn't give it to him. My man Joel is saying. I noticed Rick Reno guy too. He's not a fan. He's saying he's not a fan of his. No, look, he's not a fan of mine either. I mean, we had a little spat years and years ago, but He's saying he comes through. He's dressed like a queen with all these outfits. Look, he's just trying to get attention, and he's obviously succeeding. But if he thinks he looks cool, I don't know. Listen, one of my biggest hangups right now with the direction that the sport of boxing is going in is that it's becoming too much like the WWE, and that's another reason. But anyway, Keyshawn Davis took care of Jermaine Ortiz in that fight. The referee, Thomas Taylor, stopped it at 2 minutes and 47 seconds of the final round. Davis improves to 14-0 with 10 knockouts. Ortiz loses for the third time. He drops to 20 wins, 3 losses, and a draw with 10 of his wins coming by knockout. In a fight that was pretty entertaining, Shushu Carrington were fighting for the vacant title against, I didn't mention who he was fighting. He was fighting Carlos Castro. At the end of the ninth round, my two favorite referees right now, and pretty much, Charlie Fitch, who was doing this one, and of course, my Harvey Dock. I mean, those are my two favorite referees that are out there today. But what a fight. Charlie finally waved it off. He was knocked out 1 minute and 29 seconds of the ninth round. Shushu improves to 17-0 with 10 knockouts, and Castro drops to 30-4 with 14 of his wins coming by knockout. Jarrell Baby Miller stole the show. No, not by his performance, by his toupee. His toupee gets knocked off his head, right? And it's flopping up and down. And, everybody was laughing. I'm sure that, he was hearing some jeers, not cheers, cheers from the crowd. But you know what? I give Jarrell Miller credit because he handled it right. He laughed about it. He ripped the rest of it off his head and he threw it into the stands. I mean, what else can he do? That fight was kind of a tough one to score. Honestly, I think it could have went either way. But at the end, the judges scored it by a split decision in Jarrell Miller's favor, 94-96, and went Iba's way. And two judges had it 97-93. And Jarrell Miller improves to 27-1 with 2 draws and 22 of his wins coming by knockout. And Iba drops to 16-3 with a draw with 14 of his wins coming by knockout. He started late. He was Iba. He started late. He did sport of boxing. He was an athlete. You can see the difference when other athletes go from other sports into the sport of boxing. Muscle memory. When you have a fighter that's been training since he's young and he goes through the amateur programs and what have you, and he turns pro, they're a lot more polished, regardless of how many fights they have. It's just that muscle memory. And when other athletes come from other sports, and Ibe was in football, the training is much different, and you could see it in the ring, just the way he was moving. I mean, I think they broke the record for the most combined weight of 2 fighters. I mean, we all know that Miller was, well over 300 pounds. He was several donuts over 300 pounds. But in any event, in a fight that I was wrong at, when I predicted the fights last week, I kept referring to Josh Kelly as my man. And then I went against him, and I felt that he didn't have enough to beat his opponent, Bakram, and I'm going to murder his name, Murtazaev. And Mazayev, he just looks like a vicious killer. But Josh Kelly fought the perfect fight. His movement, his hands were quick. He was landing. I mean, there was no question in my mind that he won the fight. I was a little surprised that it wasn't a unanimous decision. One judge had it 113-113, and the 2 other judges had it 115-111 and 114-114. I mean, it was a close fight depending upon how you were scoring it. Murtazaev was a guy that was landing heavier punches, but Josh Kelly was landing way more. And, it's hard. You guys got to understand that when you see these judges' scorecards, it's the view. They're a stationary view, and they may not see a punch that lands or whatever. When we're watching on TV, we have the benefit of seeing multiple camera angles. So I thought that from watching it at home, I thought that Josh Kelly won the fight. I didn't think that there was going to be a score, an even score. But nonetheless, that took place to that. And he did get dropped. Murtazaev did get dropped. His glove, he was never hurt. His glove touched the canvas, but that might have been the difference in the fight, that 2-point margin. He won the title, Josh Kelly. He's now the IBF junior middleweight champ. He improves to 18 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, with 9 of his wins coming by knockout. And Murtazaev loses for the first time in his career. He's 23-1 with 17 knockouts. Josh Padley won an easy fight in the super featherweight division. He stopped his opponent, Gerard Bellimity, in the second round to improve to 18-1 with 6 knockouts. And Bellimity drops to 23-3 with 3 draws and 11 of his wins coming by knockout. Normally, I don't talk about young fighters to keep an eye on unless you're in a heavyweight division. My man Jose El Cello is in the house. We got to get him back on. So I appreciate that. Brian Mitchell, Johnny Gomez. Thank you guys for popping in. I appreciate it. In the heavyweight division, Leo Atang took on a proverbial punch of it. I mean, look, this was a guy that came in there. He was a tough guy. But he wasn't going to win. But what the thing was I was impressed with Leo Atang. He's a big guy. He can move, and he took care of business, beating Amine Bouchetta at 39 seconds of the third round. It looked like he could have taken him out in the first round. I was surprised that Bouchetta lasted through the first round, and then even more surprised that he made it through the second. But the end finally came at 39 seconds of the third. Leo Atang is now 4-0, all wins coming by knockout, and Bouchetta drops to 9-18 in probably the best fight of the weekend. It was a unification fight between Abbas Bararu and Alexander Zayas. It was a pretty back and forth fight. I mean, if you didn't see this one, you should. These guys are friends. Before the fight they were, and then during the training and stuff, not so much. And then, of course, after the fight. And it was kind of a close fight by the scores. One judge saw it in Bararu's favor, 116-112, while the other two had the same score for Zayas. At the end of the fight, if you watched it, Abbas Bararu said that he thought he lost the fight, which usually you never hear fighters say that. They're always saying they thought they got robbed or whatever. But Bararu loses for the second time in his career. He's now 17-2, and Alexander Zayas improves. He's now 23-0. And he's the WBO and WBA unified junior middleweight champion. And in a shocker for me, the guy that a lot of people feel beat Canelo Alvarez got slapped around in Denmark. And I'm talking about William Skull. Jacob Bank improved to 18-0 when he retained his WBO global title, and basically had his way with William Skull, who drops to 23-2. Wasn't even competitive. It just wasn't. The fight was finally stopped at 2 minutes and 37 seconds of the final round. That must have been a freak night for Canelo. I'm having a hard time catching up with all the stuff that's going on in the chat room. Somebody's talking about racist, but in any event, So my man Dana White ends up for boxing. I'm telling you guys, this is going to be good for the sport. It's going to be good for the sport. All right. Jose Valenzuela took on Diego Torres in the main event on their ZO2. Now, if I'm not a big MMA fan, but they number all their cards, right? Joe DeGuardia from Star Boxing out of Long Island does the same thing. So this is his second card, right, of this year anyway. I don't think he did one last year. I can't recall. But the fight was a decent fight. The whole thing, in any event, 99-91 Venezuela, all three judges scored. He improves to 15-3 with 9 knockouts, and Torres loses for the second time in his career. He's now 22-2 with 29 knockouts. This card was typical of the previous card. They're very competitive fights. When you look through all the fights that were on this card, very competitive, 50-50 fights, guys with similar records. There were a couple non-50-50 fights, but guys with similar records fighting each other, which I was impressed with. Moving on to the news. Moving on. Floyd Mayweather. It comes out today that Floyd Mayweather is suing Showtime, and he's claiming that Showtime and Al Heyman, as a matter of fact, and Steve Espinosa, basically beat him out of some money. How much money? How about $300 million? I mean, look, Floyd's nickname is money, right? He's been, he's made a career out of convincing people how smart he is in the ring, how smart he is outside the ring for picking the right fights at the right time. He's demanded the top dollars. I mean, we've seen him, make a ton of money. As a matter of fact, many believe him when he says that he's made over $1 billion in the sport of boxing throughout his career. Big paydays. How do you miss $300 million if you're so smart? What does he have, an extra $1 million in his couch and loose change? I mean, come on, $300 million. If he made $1 billion, right? Isn't that a third of his total net worth? And he misses it. It was actually 340, so it's even more than that. And the lawsuit is against Espinosa and Showtime, and he's claiming that Al Heyman was in cahoots with them. Now, my question is, and I've had people on social media tell me that the reason Al Heyman isn't part of this lawsuit is because him and Floyd already settled, because he admitted this happened. I never heard that. I got to be honest with you. I get all the boxing news across the wire, right? So I never heard that. I heard of this today. So I mean, he's suing. He's claiming that he didn't get all his money from his biggest fights, Manny Pacquiao, Conor McGregor, to name a few. And he's claiming that the powers that be at Showtime gave the money directly to Al Heyman, and it wasn't allocated correctly. I have a hard time believing it. Okay, don't get me wrong. I believe that there's crooks out there, because we all know, if anybody's been involved in the sport of boxing, that there's plenty of crooks, and it's certainly very possible that this took place. I'm just surprised. And the reason why I'm surprised is because, Floyd is supposed to have been so smart, specifically with money and so on and so forth. I mean, how do you let that how do you let that just slide? And then here's the truth, boys and girls. Floyd Mayweather, there's been a lot of rumors, and they are rumors. So, there's no proof. But there's a lot of rumors going around that, he's a little strapped for money. And this is what happens to athletes. And it's not just boxers. It happens in all sports. When you're at your peak whether you're playing football or baseball or basketball or you're a professional boxer, when you're at your peak and you're making all this money, your level of life, your the way you live, the whole way that you're spending money, and you might buy that big mansion and you have to hire people to maintain it, and you're spending money like a drunken sailor, right? But then all that money stops. You're not making the funds you used to make as a football player or as a fighter. And what they never do is they never lower that standard of living, and they keep maintaining that standard of living without the revenue streams coming in. And it doesn't take long to piss away all your money. And, Floyd has always been in good shape, and he's always been clean. You never heard of him, like an Adrian Broner, where he's out there drinking and, doing stupid stuff. He was never into drugs or anything like that. He took care of himself. But he does have a vice, boys and girls. He does have something that he does spend his money on. And you know what that is? It's right there in Las Vegas. It's the casinos. He's a gambler. And not only does he gamble, he likes sports betting. And, he used to put his winning tickets on social media. I haven't seen him lately. And my resources, and the word on the curb, tells me that he's one of the worst gamblers in Las Vegas. And he loses tons and tons of money. As a matter of fact, the casinos limit him. So when he wants to place a big bet on something, from what I understand, it's a rumor, he goes to multiple casinos. So it could very well be true that he's hurting for money. There are some serious talks about him and Manny Pacquiao fighting again. The only reason he would fight again would be for money. I mean, he's prided himself on his 50-0 record for so long. I just this news of him claiming that Showtime stole $340 million from him. It's just mind-boggling to me. I just think it's crazy. I happen to be reading Brian Mitchell's talking about Joe DeGuardia, and he's mentioning this fight with him and David Telesco. Brian, I remember that fight. So David Telesco was one of Joe's guys, but in any event, I just find it strange that Floyd would let this happen, or what's even more strange is the fact that it's coming to light now. I mean, if he's talking about the Mayweather fight and the Conor McGregor fight, I mean, wow. How long has that been? That's been at least what, 7 years ago? So I mean, how do you miss? If I'm short $100, I notice it. I mean, $340 million. Maybe all the rumors are false. Maybe Floyd still has tons and tons of money, and maybe $340 million for him is would be something that he would not notice. I don't know, man. I don't know, but we'll see what unfolds about that. His lawyer saying he's going to be just like his record in the ring. He's going to win this case. He's going to be undefeated. I don't know. I didn't hear the rumor that, he settled with Heyman. I find it awfully strange that if Heyman's the guy that received the money and allocated it incorrectly, why isn't Heyman being named in the lawsuit? I find that interesting. If he's, Showtime and Steven Espinoza, who was, he was kind of I wouldn't want to trust him with a kid. He just looked like that. And I always wondered about Espinosa, but I'm just curious, why would Al Heyman, if Floyd Mayweather is saying that he got the money inappropriately, why would Al Heyman not be named in the lawsuit? It just it boggles my mind. But I was telling you guys that we had a real special guest today. He's taking some time out. He's fighting Saturday. Okay, he's fighting Saturday, and he's the main event. I want to welcome my man. He's an undefeated welterweight prospect. Victor Reynoso joins us. What's up, Victor?
Hey, what's going on? How are
Hey,
you?
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy fight this Saturday. You're headlining the Winter Brawl. My man Jimmy Birchfield's card. First and foremost, I rumor has it that you work your ass off in the gym, man. Tell us what it's like working in the gym and training with Peter Gundy at Grundy's gym.
You know what they say, he who sacrifices the most gets the biggest prize.
This is true.
No matter where you want to apply it to, you know.
Is there anything different that you do in your workout and preparation that you think that gives you the edge?
I think that I just naturally like to work out. So I do a little bit of everything. I like to swim. I do a lot of running.
You do swimming as part of your boxing workout?
Yeah, definitely. It's a full body workout, low impact. It's great for your lats. It helps a lot with your breathing. Because as you're, doing the freestyle down the pool, your roto breathing, it helps with managing your oxygen intake and exhaling as you're swimming, So I feel like that goes hand in hand with explosive punching and breathing techniques,
That's cool, man. That's what made you decide to this. I'm sure people have asked you this question a million times, but I can make it 1,000,001. What made you decide to turn pro? Especially, I mean, let's face it. You turned pro a little later than most. What made you take that move into becoming a professional?
It was something that I guess it was a seed that was planted in my head when I was smaller. I used to box at the Nickerson house, and my trainer at the time was Floyd Brown. And he would always tell me how good of a pro I would be because of my hard work and dedication to the sport. And, I went to college. I worked in a prison as a correctional officer, and I realized that I'm not very passionate about being in a prison setting. Education growth is forever, but if I were to have a chance to do something that I'm really passionate about, this is the time to do it. So that's when I shifted gears, and I said, "Is now or never," So.
Well, you're in one of the hottest divisions in the sport of boxing, the welterweight division. How do you see yourself as you're progressing? Where do you think you fit in that division?
I think I fit in at the top of the division. I'm tall. I'm lengthy. I have good speed. I have good power. I think that once you get to that peak point, it's all about mindset. Some people may have the whole care package, but can't perform under pressure. I feel like I'm made for the moment, and I've been grinding for a very long time. So, to be able to get an opportunity and to fold, I just don't see it occurring. At the end of the day, I'm gonna be the best version of Victor Reynoso that I could be, win, lose, or draw. But I'm gonna give it my best, and I stand by that.
Well, I'll tell you, it looks like you're trying to make a clear statement on Saturday night, stepping in the ring with Ray Oliveira Jr. I know he's a tough fighter. I've actually seen him ringside several times. Plus, his pops is going to be in the corner. Are you trying to challenge yourself as much as you can? I mean, when I went through your resume, it doesn't look like you're afraid to fight anybody, and it's one of the things that bothers me about young fighters today. They don't want to fight anybody. They're just looking to protect the O and stuff, and it seems like you're trying to take a fast track. What's your thoughts on that?
I just feel like, the idea of protecting your O is just so fraudulent. You're not going to get better at the end of the day.
No, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're 100% right. If you're not going to, increase your level of opposition on, for every fight, moving up after each fight, how do you get better?
Exactly. You need to challenge yourself, and not sure if you ever heard of the expression "sword sharpens sword." But that's real. There's a lot of people that may get an opportunity. Maybe like 15-0, 16-0, then they fight an okay type of guy, and they get knocked out. Because their fight record is just good on paper. They haven't really faced any adversity or been any challenging situations where doubt crosses your mind, and now you need to really dig deep and figure things out. A lot of people just fall under pressure when things are not going your way in the fight game, and you're going against time.
You're 11-0 with 7 knockouts. Do you think you need a knockout Saturday night?
I think it would look good on my record, and plus I would think that it would boost my ranking.
Knockouts are always good, bro. You know that. So I got a question from somebody that's in the chat room. Lovett's asking you what your favorite part of boxing is.
My favorite part of boxing is being able to inspire others through my journey. I feel like that's something that, keeps me going. It hasn't been easy for me personally in outside the ring, and just my journey, constantly reminds me that I can't stop. I have to keep going and pushing to strive for greatness.
I got a question for you. What made you decide to team up with my man Jimmy Birchfield as your promoter? Because in my opinion, he's one of the last grassroots promoters out there. He works so hard for all you guys. I mean, how did he become your promoter? Obviously you could have made other decisions. Why did you pick them?
I mean, Jimmy's the hottest ticket in town. I live in Rhode Island, He's the one that throws the biggest, best organized professional shows in the region.
For a long time, brother. He's been doing it for he's been doing it longer than you've been on this planet.
Yeah, exactly.
He has.
That's true. So I like quality, and Jimmy's team brings quality.
His shows are great. His fighters are good. He's had world champions, high-level world champions, and I think you made the right decision. I got one more question for you. Where do you see yourself in the sport in a year from now? A year from now, if we had a crystal ball and we could fast forward 1 year to February 4th in 2027. Where would Victor Reynoso be? What would we be talking about?
Listen, man, if it was up to me, I'd be fighting like every 6 weeks. If it all came down to me, I'd like to have a minimum of 6 to 7 fights this year. We need to get the ball rolling. They need to start lining these guys up, and I'm ready to fight back to back. So ideally, I see myself as 7 more fights, 7 more fights, 17-0, 16-0. Hopefully, I can look at a New England title by next year, some type of title to put me into the rankings and to one of the bigger money fight positions. I've been boxing for a long time. I'm experienced, and I'm ready to go. It's time to line them up. Let's get it popping.
So that's great to hear. So you know what you got to do. You gotta after this fight Saturday night when you take care of business, you say, "Hey Jimmy, come on, let's have a chat." You know, because we know Jimmy does enough shows, right? And you say, "Look, man, make sure I'm on every one of those shows." You know, and hey, look. You know what the bottom line is? People buy tickets to come to see you. Jimmy's going to have you on the show. You know that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So
That's the name of the game, right? Especially
right.
in Rhode Island in the venues that you guys are fighting in. The name of the game is asses in the seats. So, hey, I want to wish you all the luck in the world, Vic, and I hope that you take care of business in a dominating fashion on Saturday night. And I hope you do fight every month. And you know what? If that's the case, you got to come back on. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Billy, thanks for having me. Appreciate the platform, and it's crunch time come Saturday night. Oh
You
yeah.
know, the funny thing is, I feel bad because we're not giving. Usually, I like to bring people on a week before the fight. I'm bringing you on a couple of days. You know, it's like I know you're busy. You got to get your mind set. So I appreciate you giving us the time, man.
Thank you. Appreciate
All right,
you.
good luck Saturday, man. And this time next year, we'll be talking about a title shot, right?
Oh yeah. Let's get it.
All right, man. Be good.
Take care.
That's Victor Reynoso, undefeated welterweight prospect, taking some time. He's fighting Saturday night. And, I talk about Jimmy Birchfield and CES boxing for a long time. He's one of the first fights I covered way back in the day, and still going strong. You guys hear me mention three promoters specifically when I talk about old-time grassroots promoters, because in my opinion, a lot of promoters today don't promote. It's like managers. They don't manage. Promoters don't promote. Managers don't manage. And guess what? Fighters aren't fighting. But what bothers me is fighters have to promote themselves. And what do? They talk smack on the internet. They talk smack social media. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They push and they're shoving, and then they're hugging and kissing during the fight. So the truth of the matter is we need a little throwback fighters that are willing to fight the right fights. And I'm not getting paid to promote it, but this is why I think Dana White's idea is going to work. I really do. I think the fans are going to want it because they're going to know that when they tune into one of those cards, they're going to see competitive fights. And you see those kinds of fights on these club shows like Jimmy Birchfield does, and the other names you hear me mention, Jimmy Birchfield's one of those guys. Joe DeGuardia has his little niche in Long Island. He works hard with his fighters, and Bobby Hitz in the Chicago area is another one. I mean, these are guys that are putting on shows on a regular basis and building up these young talent that all of a sudden when you're watching a fight, they bring in this guy. He's 25-0. Where did he come from? Well, he came from these cards. Unless you're fighting over on the other side of the pond, those guys, they fight each other. They're not afraid to fight anybody, and that's why I love the UK boxing. Anyway, some other news to talk about. Paulie Malignaggi. Now, Paulie's a paisan for me, right? And Paulie was always known for his boxing ability. And, when he said he was getting into the bare knuckle boxing, I was shocked. I was shocked because his style of boxing doesn't seem like it's conducive to bare knuckle boxing. He's fought 2 already. He's 1-1, and he's back. He's fighting again in May, and he's fighting for the bare knuckle boxing super welterweight world title. So we'll see about that. He got beat up pretty bad last time, but he won. He had lost his first fight with another, I think it was another organization. But bare knuckle boxing. Speak of bare knuckle boxing, here's another guy I'm shocked that just signed. It was announced today that Yuriorkis Gamboa has signed with BKB, bare knuckle boxing, and he's going to be on a card soon. They're going to announce it. Now, Gamboa, first of all, I loved Gamboa, the Cuban fighter. Extremely fast. As he was moving up in weight and people finally caught him, he had a suspect chin. And that surprises me that he's going into bare knuckle boxing because, a lot of these guys, they're not fleet of foot. They're coming to, I've watched it and I kind of like it. I didn't at first, but I kind of like it now. And the reason is because they don't pussyfoot around. They go in there to fight, and it's very brutal. But the fights don't last that long, and maybe it's because of my book I wrote about that era, and now you fast forward to 2026 already, and we're fighting bare knuckle again, and it's becoming popular. It's going to be interesting to see how Yuriorkis Gamboa does in bare knuckle boxing as a pro in boxing. 30 wins, 5 losses, 18 of his wins coming by knockout. And the interesting thing, one of his fights that he had was against Lomachenko, and Lomachenko claims that he was the hardest hitting fighter that he faced. That when he hit him, he said he felt it. He said it bothered him. So I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It was Terrence Crawford who said that when Terrence Crawford fought him early in his career. But I misspoke. I saw some stuff on social media that I had a laugh. Okay. We all know that it's been announced that Deontay Wilder is fighting, not Usyk. He's fighting Derek Chisora. I know there was a lot of talk, and people were reporting that he was fighting Usyk, and then all of a sudden we get the announcement that he's fighting Chisora. Now, as far as Deontay Wilder is concerned, I was totally 159% against him fighting Usyk. I don't believe he deserved a shot at Usyk. However, I like this fight. I think it's a fair. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I mean, Deontay Wilder is a one-trick pony. We know that. All he can do is crush you with his right hand, but he's got no footwork, no defense, doesn't use a jab, which his build he should. No defense. So it's going to be an interesting fight. Can Deontay catch Derek Chisora with one of those bombs? Or is Derek Chisora just going to bully him and knock him out because he's got a suspect chin too? But what I've seen on social media lately about Deontay Wilder is pretty comical. And what is it? I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but there's been polls asking if you think that Deontay Wilder is Hall of Fame material. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Deontay Wilder is not Hall of Fame material. I'm talking about International Boxing Hall of Fame. Maybe a regional a Hall of Fame for his state or something. Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. He's a successful former world champion, blah, blah, blah. But he's not, when you start thinking of guys that are Hall of Famers, Roberto Duran, I mean, that's a Hall of Famer. Sugar Ray Robinson, that's a Hall of Famer. Sugar Ray Leonard, Rocky Graziano, Rocky Marciano. I mean, Jack Johnson, one of my favorite fighters. Sonny Liston, all these guys, Jack Dempsey, they're all Hall of Famers. And then you're going to try to put Deontay Wilder with those people? I mean, I get it that boxing's very hard today. It's not as good as it was back in the day. It's just not. All right. We're going to have Mike Silver on. I believe it's next week, and we'll be talking about his book. When in doubt, stop the bout. But Mike Silver wrote another book, which damn well I'm sure he knows because I talk about it all the time. But his book called The Arc of Boxing: The Rise and Fall of Sweet Science. He takes data and proves why boxing was better back in the day, statistically wise, and why the fighters were better. Now, today we could have the best fighters ever because of, and I say this all the time, because of the nutritional advancements and the workout advancements and the natural evolution of humans, us, plus all the dues that these other fighters from years gone by have paid that younger fighters today get to learn from and emulate. And not to mention all the technology that we have in terms of watching video and frame by frame and really, really dissecting it. But what's missing not only is the numbers of people that are in the sport, because that's at an all-time low when you compare it back in the day. It's on a rise, over the last 10 years, but nothing like it was that Mike compares it in his book. But the thing is that these fighters today, to be in the Hall of Fame, I mean, you got to put somebody in there, and the truth of the matter is if he ever gets in, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Now, you have to bring, in my opinion, the Hall of Fame needs to, not only do you have to be a champion fighter, champion caliber fighter, but you have to have had brought something to the sport that made it better. For example, recently Vinny Pazienza got inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. There were a lot of people that felt that he didn't deserve to go in. And I disagree. And the same thing with like a Boom Boom Mancini or an Arturo Gatti. These guys didn't have the flashy undefeated records and all of this, but what they gave to the sport of boxing, putting fannies in seats, excitement, style, having people, hey, did you see the Boom Boom fight last night? Stuff like that. They helped the sport, and that's deserving. So you got to not only be good, you got to bring something to the sport. And I just don't believe that Deontay Wilder did. He didn't fight tough fights. He was calculated. His career was calculated very carefully. And when you look at, and a lot of fighters today, they build up their record and then they start to fight quality fights when they're getting a shot at a title. And then the United States fans will turn around and say, oh, he was a bum. He was exposed. He was exposed. He was never good. Well, that's the difference between the UK boxing, because they fight each other. They might get a loss or two, but their fans don't abandon them. And that's why I keep saying that Zuffa Boxing and Dana White are going to be a home run for the fans, for the people that love boxing. And I say it all the time. I was blessed with being inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame and the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. And both speeches I mentioned how I wish that a lot of young boxing fans today would take the time to learn a little about the history. And I don't mean go Google and YouTube and looking for fights, which luckily there are a lot of them on there, but learn a little. Maybe pick up what do they call them? Oh, yeah, a book. Try one of those. Jack Johnson, read about him, especially with the political unrest that's going on in the country now and some of the prejudice stuff that goes on. Read about my man Jack Johnson and what he went through. Stuff like that. Read about Charlie Burley, who was so good that, people didn't want to give him a shot, or a Sam Langford that, didn't get his chance at fighting for titles because of the color of his skin, So read about stuff like that and see what these fighters did for the sport before you jumping on bandwagons and saying that guys like Deontay Wilder deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Hey, his career isn't over. Maybe he'll be deserving at some point. I just doubt it. This talk about Dana White and Zuffa Boxing. Their next fight is, which is number 3, it's February 15th, and he's got a pretty decent main event. Efa Ajagba, the heavyweight, he's fighting Charles Martin, which was a former champion. I think it's a competitive fight. It's not, it's not Usyk against Tyson Fury or it's not that, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be the winner of this fight, moves on to another tougher fight. These are the kinds of fights that I'm talking about. These are the kinds of fights that you want to see. You want to see somewhat competitive fights. Do you realize that, I'm going off topic, but do you realize in the 50s and in the 60s, or even into the 70s for that matter, and the 80s, I mean, geez, if you were going to gamble on a fight, right, a lot of times the fight was 50-50, maybe 60-40. Today, some of these lines that I see, you're laying $1,500 to win $100. And boxing is still, anything can happen. That's how swayed the matches are by the bookmakers. The Las Vegas odds makers. They even know how unfair and weighted to one side. The whole A side, B side invention was basically telling the fans, hey, the guy sitting on the A side, he's going to win this fight. You didn't call, even in the 80s and the early 90s, you really weren't saying A side and B side. I mean, you might have knew who the favorite was going into the fight, but you weren't blatantly saying he's on the A side and he's on the B side, and the fans accept it today. They accept it. I like the card, and I like that fight. February 15th, as you know, Dana White and Stuff for Boxing has the deal with Paramount Plus. And I don't know if you caught it, but Terrence Crawford, rightfully so, won the 2025 Fighter of the Year, Ring Award, Fighter of the Year award. It was interesting to see who the finalists were. I mean, in my opinion, Terrence Crawford deserved it hands down. There was nobody. There was nobody better that there was. You couldn't have told me somebody that deserved it more than TC. But it was interesting to see the other nominees. Dimitri Bivol, right? So you stop and you think, well, yeah, he had a really good year. Jesse Bam Rodriguez. I mean, there's a special fighter right there. Yeah, you could have said he could have made. I mean, they were competing against TC, right? So Blood's going to win, but these other fighters had some really good years. How about Inoue, the monster? Out of Japan, he too had a great year. He fights frequently, and then the guy that the last nominee is an interesting story because Fabio Wardley, he fought Frazier Clark. That was like his first big fight. They end up with a draw. Then he destroys him in the rematch, and then next thing you know, he wins. He beats Joseph Parker, right? So Fabio Wardley all of a sudden is sitting pretty, and he's calling out Usyk, and everybody's putting him in. He skyrockets the rankings. He's an interesting story, and what makes Fighter of the Year. We're not saying who's the best fighter of the year, who's the Fighter of the Year. He was an interesting story, and it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes from here. Speaking about. Okay, you go from it's a tale of two shows, right? I go from Dana White's next fight, February 15th, a very good matchup, and it's on Paramount Plus. Everybody has Paramount Plus, and then we were talking about Floyd Mayweather's lawsuit against Showtime and Steven Espinosa, and it was all tied in with Al Heyman shenanigans. And by the way, Al Heyman is the PBC, and the PBC has a fight card they re-announced that Sebastian Fundora, who's a real good fighter, in the super welterweight division, he's 15 feet tall. He was the one that beat the snot out of Tim Tszyu. I never saw so much. Why that fight was allowed to continue? I mean. The guy could have bled out on the during that fight. I never saw so much blood and it was coming from his head. And when you get cut on your head, it's like a murder scene. And they let that fight keep going. It was rolling right in his eyes too. I'll never know. I'll never understand how they let that fight continue. But nonetheless, Fundora has cemented his spot in the junior super welterweight division, and he's fighting Keith Thurman. I mean, Keith Thurman, he had his time one time, but Keith Thurman, March 28th, because it was an injury to Fundora. They postponed it. They've rescheduled it to March 28th. I predicted that the other fight when they had it wasn't going to take place. I was leaning towards Thurman backing out like he always does. But Fundora injured himself. I still predict that this fight's not going to happen. Keith Thurman, something's going to happen. He's going to crash his bicycle or something and get hurt. You watch. But the worst part of this fight, which, in my opinion, and I hate to say it, but I'm speaking the truth, I have no interest in this fight. Keith Thurman, I mean, he had a shot, but they're making it a pay-per-view. I mean, if you want to watch it, put it on a network or a streaming service that everyone can see. I'd watch it. I'm not paying for it. I got to be honest. I'm not. I mean, it's not worthy of a pay-per-view. Has the PBC sunk so low that they're trying to sell this fight as a pay-per-view? And if they do, I'm curious. I'm curious to know how many buys they end up having. I don't think very many. Remember Marco Captain Huck? I talked about this on the last show. He was threatening to make a comeback. Well, he's coming back. February 14th, Valentine's Day. He's returning to the ring. Captain Huck, former king of the cruiserweight division. He fought many fights at heavyweight as well. He's coming back as a heavyweight. He's 41 years old now. 43 wins, 5 losses, and a draw, with 28 of his wins coming by knockout. I liked Captain Huck, but he was never, I don't see him competing with some of these heavyweights that we're starting to see coming up. I still think KBL is the guy that should be fighting Usyk. Don't fall asleep on Daniel Dubois. He's not done. All of these, there's some really good young UK fighters in the heavyweight division that you need to keep an eye on. And no, not Tyson Fury's brother. I'm not impressed with him. But, listen, how many times do I got to say the UK carries boxing on its back because they fight each other? When you look at Captain Huck, yes, he's, going to do well in Germany. But check out who he's fighting. All right. Now, you kind of got to give him. You kind of got to give him a pass. He hasn't fought in several years. He's 41 years old. He's going to try to make a run at it. He wants to try to see if he can still be at that, top upper echelon level. He's taken on his opponent. His name is Vaclav Pesar. He's from the Czech Republic. And they claiming that he's the reigning cruiserweight champion. Now, he fights at heavyweight, but he's the reigning cruiserweight champion. His record, boys and girls, 26 wins, 22 losses. 21 of his 26 wins coming by knockout. And the only positive thing about those 22 losses, he's only been stopped 6 times. Now, I get it. This is a real good fight for Marco Captain Huck to test the waters with. Maybe just a little better. He could have found somebody a little better. We got I got Rob from England. Yeah, I'm talking about the UK because I love the UK. And he says there's always some UK boxers coming up. It's more than that. The truth of the matter is what I love about those fighters, and I say it on this show all the time. People that listen to the show all the time are probably so sick of me saying it, but the truth of the matter is they fight each other. The fans are more knowledgeable. They don't bail on their fighter after a loss, and I'm going to be getting to a English card right now, and it's one of my favorite fighters. But before I talk about Nick Ball going up against Brandon Figueroa, I just want to mention I'm going to be ringside February 28th up at the Turning Stone Casino, and Manny Pacquiao's promotional company's putting on a card there, and we got a pretty good main event. It's a featherweight title. There is a title, but it's a featherweight fight between Elijah Pierce going up against Lorenzo Parra. Parra's been around. He's a good fighter, 23 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. And Pierce, similar record, 21-2. It's a very good main event. But the co-main event features a young, up-and-coming fighter that's local. Up there, and he always draws a crowd. Bryce Mills is his name, and he's in the super lightweight division. And if you ever saw this guy live, you'd say to yourself, he's got to be a light heavyweight, right? He looks monstrous, and he's a junior welterweight. So he's 20 wins, 1 loss with 7 knockouts, and he's in a pretty tough fight against Tobias Green, 12-3-1. So that's the main and co-main, and they got a bunch of other fights on this card, including Manny Pacquiao Jr. He's going to be on this card as well. So if you're in the area up near the Turning Stone in Verona, New York, make sure you say hello. I'm going to be ringside. All right. The fight this weekend that I wanted to break down and talk about, we're talking about the Brits, and I'll talk about this fight because Nick Ball is one of my favorite fighters. They call him the Wrecking Ball, and they call him the Wrecking Ball for good reason. The guy never stops. He just, he's not, you're not going to see a Shakur Stevenson performance, that's for sure. But you're going to see an exciting performance because every one of his fights are exciting. Nick Ball is the WBA World Featherweight Champion in the featherweight division. I say that because my man Augie says I don't say what divisions. So he's a featherweight, and he's taking on Brandon Figueroa. Let me just tell you, boys and girls, this is a tough fight for Nick Ball. This is an extremely competitive fight. It's going to be on DAZN. And I think that if you need to watch a fight this weekend, or even if you happen to have missed watching the Stevenson-Lopez fight live and you watched a replay or something, make sure you watch this fight. I would be shocked if it's not an exciting fight. And it's not an easy fight for either side. Nick Ball, WBA World Featherweight Champion, his record 23-0 with a draw. He's got 13 knockouts. The way the rankings work is because he's the WBA champ. Nobody else ranks him, but the computer has him ranked at number 2. The Ring Magazine has him ranked at number 3. ESPN ratings have him ranked at number 2. We had him ranked at number 4. But remember, I'm only doing the original 8 plus the cruiserweight division, so I combine the weight classes. So he's in. Number 4 for us is pretty high, really, when you think about it, because it's 2 weight classes combined. And he's the champ, so they didn't put him in the computer top 100. He's fought 24 times, 146 rounds. He's got a 57% knockout ratio. 28 years old. He's pretty similar in age to Brandon Figueroa. He's a year younger. He's 5'2". Guess what, boys and girls? He's given up 7 inches. That's the height difference between these two guys, 7 inches. All right. Nick Ball's style. He comes at you. He throws lots and lots of punches. His best wins in 2022, he stopped Isaac Lowe. In 2023, he won a 12-round unanimous decision over Isaac Dogby. In 2024, there was a disputed split decision draw with Ray Vargas, who he dropped twice. Now remember this fight, boys and girls, because Ray Vargas had a huge height advantage over Nick Ball, but not as much as Brandon Figueroa did. I think it was 6 inches, and this is 7. In 2024, in what I feel was probably the most important fight of his career, is when he won a split decision over Ray Ford. Now, Raymond Ford was a fighter that I saw a couple of times live, and he's a real, one time at Turning Stone. He's a real good fighter. So, when he stepped in with Nick Ball, I said, okay, this is going to be a good test. And it was a tough fight, and he came out on top. Another good bouts that he had in 2024, he stopped Ronnie Rios. And, of course, his last fight, a 12-round decision over Sam Goodman. Now, he steps in the ring with Brandon Figueroa, who is a former two-division world champion. This is no slouch opponent. And it's not like he's an over-the-hill guy either. He's 1 year older than Nick Ball at 29. And like I said, he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage at 5'9", with a 72 and a half reach advantage. He's going to have a height advantage of 7 inches, of 5'9". 26 wins, 19 coming by knockout, and 2 losses with a draw. His 2 losses both came to the hands of Stephen Fulton. He lost in the super bantamweight division in 2021. It was a 12-round majority decision he lost, and in 2025 he lost a 12-round unanimous decision. It was a world featherweight title. He's got 186 rounds as a pro, 40 more than Nick Ball. He's also got a much higher knockout ratio, 73%. And when I look at his best wins, they're all stoppages. In 2018, he stopped Oscar Escandon, which was, he was a top fighter at that time. In 2019, he stopped Moises Flores. In 2021, he stopped Louis Neary. I mean, Louis Neary was also a top fighter. In 2022, he stopped Carlos Castro. In 2023, he won a 12-round decision over Mark Magsayo. And in 2024, he stopped Jesse Magladeno. If you've been following boxing during that time, you're going to recognize all those names because they were all either champions or at one time or, top contenders. And Brandon Figueroa has wins over all of them. He was the former world junior featherweight champ and also the former interim world featherweight champion. There's so many belts. I give him the kudos, right? The computer has him ranked in the featherweight division at number 8. I'm a little surprised by that. I would think that he would be a little higher than 8, but nonetheless, the WBA has him ranked at number 1. The WBO has him ranked at number 1. He's not rated at all in the WBC or the IBF, which tells me that the WBC and the IBF believe that he's going to be a title holder for either the WBA or WBO soon. Ring Magazine has him ranked at number 7. ESPN has him ranked at number 6. We have him ranked at number 12, but keep in mind we have the 2 weight classes. And the IBO Boxing Computer Top 100, which I think is the most accurate out there, has him at number 3. So bottom line, boys and girls, this is an extremely competitive fight. I think Nick Ball, how's it going to go? I think Nick Ball is going to be tested in this fight. The one thing that I'm nervous about with Nick Ball is that Nick Ball, when he gets cut, and, he doesn't have a great defense. His defense is his offense. He doesn't stop. He gets on you, and he doesn't get off you. The guy never gets tired. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's what I'm telling you. If you've never seen him fight, you're going to want to watch it. And then, to add to the fact that Figueroa is such a power puncher, and he's going to have that height advantage. If he can establish a jab, if Figueroa can establish a jab to get his distance and catch Nick Ball coming in, time him coming in, Nick Ball might find himself with Tweety birds flying around his head, laying on a canvas. I'm nervous about that, and I'm nervous about Brandon Figueroa chopping him up with his jab and potentially winning a fight over on a cut. Who am I picking in the fight? My gut tells me that the power puncher that's got a 7-inch height advantage and a God knows how long reach advantage is the money, is the winner. But I believe that Nick Ball is a special fighter, and special fighters always find a way to win. And Brandon Figueroa seems to have come up short in some of his big fights. He's looked fantastic in some of his other big fights, but Nick Ball seems to be looking better as time goes on. It's only 1 year younger. I think there's a little less mileage on Nick Ball, even though his style is conducive to taking a beating. And this is a true 50-50 fight, boys and girls. But I'm taking my man Nick Ball. I love Nick Ball. I went against my man last week, Josh Kelly, and I lost. I'm not doing it again. Nick Ball over Brandon Figueroa in an extremely entertaining fight. So, hey, listen, boys and girls, I appreciate you stopping by and checking out the show today. Next week, we're scheduled to have Mike Silver join us. You're not going to want to miss that interview. And be prepared for this show to go on a little longer than usual because I know once Mike and I start talking boxing, it's going to be we're not going to stop, and I'm not going to make them stop. So be prepared. Make sure you like Lane Kiffin would say, grab your popcorn because it's going to be a good show next week. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you tune in same time, same channel next week. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.